Did you know Tennessee shares a border with 8 other states, more than almost any state in the country, making it the geographic keystone of the entire eastern United States, and yet most Americans treat it as a state you pass through to get somewhere else? Or that buried beneath a small Tennessee town is a 4.5-acre lake, the largest underground lake in the United States, that sat completely undiscovered until a 13-year-old boy crawled through a crack in a cave wall in 1905, and that divers with modern equipment still haven't fully mapped, or that in 1902, 216 men and boys went underground in Anderson County, Tennessee, and some of them had enough time before they died to write down what they wanted their families to know. And we are saving that story for the very last fact in this video. And you're genuinely not prepared for what one of those men wrote to his wife. Coming in at number 25, the state that touches everything. Tennessee shares a land border with 8 other United States states: Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kentucky. That ties Missouri for the most shared state borders of any state in the country, according to United States Census Bureau boundary data and the Tennessee Secretary of State's official geographic records. Tennessee's east to west span is 432 miles. If you drove every mile of its 8 state borderlines at 60 miles per hour without stopping, the drive would take over 14 hours, longer than driving from New York City to Charlotte, North Carolina. This is not a small state quietly minding its own business. This is a state that physically connects the Southeast to the Midwest, the Atlantic slope to the Mississippi Valley. The state that touches 8 others has been called a flyover by people who have never actually stopped the car. Fact 24, the fault line nobody is watching. Here's what Hollywood never told you about American earthquake risk. The New Madrid seismic zone runs directly through western Tennessee. During the 1811-1812 earthquake sequence, 3 events, each estimated by the United States Geological Survey at between magnitude 7.2 and magnitude 8.1. The largest earthquakes east of the Rocky Mountains in American history ripped through this ground. The United States Geological Survey earthquake hazards program has confirmed the zone is capable of producing another magnitude 7.7 or larger event, and has not done so since February 7, 1812. Seismologists at the Mid-America Earthquake Center at the University of Illinois estimate that a comparable event today would affect 12 million people simultaneously, 3 times the impact zone of the 1994 Northridge earthquake in California, which caused $25 billion in damage on its own. United States Geological Survey modeling projects $300 billion in structural damage and collapsed bridges along the Mississippi River corridor. California gets the disaster movies. Tennessee has the fault line nobody's watching. The zone is still moving tonight, small, constant, measured. Landing at number 23, the lake that should not exist. In the small town of Sweetwater, Monroe County, Tennessee, there is a cave, Craighead Caverns. The Cherokee knew it. Confederate soldiers sheltered in its upper chambers during the Civil War. In 1905, a 13-year-old boy named Ben Sands crawled through a narrow passage deep inside and emerged above an underground lake covering 4.5 acres, the largest underground lake in the United States, officially recognized in the Guinness World Records. For context, the largest underground lake open to the public anywhere outside the United States is in Portugal. It covers 1.3 acres. The Lost Sea is 3.5 times larger. Modern cave divers with the best equipment available have entered the lake's submerged passages and have not reached the end. The largest underground lake in America is not in the American West. It is under a small town in eastern Tennessee, and divers still don't know how far it goes. At number 22, the city that was never on the map. Here is what nobody taught you about the atomic bomb. Between 1942 and 1945, the United States government secretly built a city in Tennessee, Oak Ridge, that housed approximately 75,000 residents and did not appear on any publicly available map. Workers at the Y-12 National Security Complex and the K-25 gaseous diffusion plant were specifically told not to ask what they were producing. What they were producing was enriched uranium-235. The fissile material that powered the Little Boy bomb dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. The K-25 plant, documented by the United States Department of Energy and the Manhattan Project National Historical Park, was at the time of its construction the largest building under one roof in the world, 44 acres of floor space. Andrew Jackson built his political career from a Tennessee plantation and became the 7th President of the United States. The state has always understood how to hold national power, but even Jackson couldn't have imagined that Tennessee would one day secretly manufacture the weapon that ended a world war in a city nobody was allowed to acknowledge existed. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer won 7 Academy Awards. It centers on Los Alamos, New Mexico, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where the bomb's fuel was actually made, appears briefly. The largest wartime industrial facility in American history was in Tennessee. It still has a security fence around it. Coming in at number 21, the river that refuses to go south. The Tennessee River is 652 miles long. It originates in Knoxville, flows southwest into Alabama, then turns and flows north, back through Alabama, back into Tennessee, through western Tennessee, and into Kentucky, where it empties into the Ohio River at Paducah. According to the Tennessee Valley Authority's river operations records and the United States Geological Survey National Hydrography Dataset, the Tennessee drains a basin of 40,910 square miles across 7 states, an area larger than the entire country of Portugal. The Tennessee Valley Authority has constructed 49 dams on the Tennessee River system, more than on any other single river system in the United States. Most of America's great eastern rivers go south. Tennessee's signature river turns north and keeps going. The state has always done things differently than the map suggested. Fact 20, the driest address in the whiskey business. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey Distillery is located in Lynchburg, Moore County, Tennessee. It is the world's best-selling American whiskey by volume. Moore County, according to the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission, has maintained a prohibition on the retail sale of alcohol by the drink since 1909. You cannot legally buy a drink in a restaurant, bar, or package store in the county where the whiskey is made. Brown-Forman Corporation's annual production records show approximately 100 million bottles produced per year from within that dry county. In 2016, Moore County voters approved a limited exception: samples and commemorative bottles at the distillery only. That remains the only authorized alcohol transaction in the county. The world's most famous American whiskey is made in a county that voted not to drink it. Tennessee contains multitudes. If the world's best-selling American whiskey has been made in a county that voted not to sell it for over 100 years, the least you can do is hit subscribe. Unlike Moore County, this channel has absolutely no restrictions on consumption. It's free, it's always available, and nobody on this team has voted to ban it. Yet. Landing at number 19, the firefly signal nobody put on a sign. Every late May and mid-June, a species of firefly called Photinus carolinus in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park near the Elkmont Campground synchronizes its flashes. Every insect blinks in unison across hundreds of acres of old-growth forest at intervals of approximately 5 seconds, then complete darkness, then unison again. Research by Dr. Jonathan Copeland of Georgia Southern University and Dr. Andrew Moiseff of the University of Connecticut, published in Science in 1995, documented the first peer-reviewed confirmation of synchronous behavior in this species at scale. Photinus carolinus is one of approximately 3 firefly species in the world capable of this, and the only one in the Americas. The National Park Service introduced a lottery system in 2016 because the single-lane access road had become dangerous with overcrowding. Demand exceeds permits by a ratio of 10 to 1. Thailand built an industry around synchronous fireflies. Tennessee's version is in the national park, 2 hours from Nashville, behind a lottery, and most Americans have never heard it exists. At number 18, the soldier nobody commissioned the statue for. Here's what Hollywood never told you about Alvin York. Sergeant Alvin Cullum York was born December 13, 1887, in Pall Mall, Fentress County, Tennessee, a mountain community in the Upper Wolf River Valley, so remote that most Americans have never heard its name. On October 8, 1918, in the Argonne Forest in France, York, leading a patrol of 17 men that machine gun fire had cut to 8, killed 28 German soldiers with a rifle and pistol and personally captured 132 prisoners of war along with 35 machine guns. General of the Armies, John Pershing, according to the United States Army Center of Military History's official Medal of Honor citation in National Archives, Record Group 92, called him the greatest civilian soldier of the war. York received the Medal of Honor on April 18, 1919. He came home to Pall Mall, refused a career in entertainment, resumed farming, spent decades fighting legal challenges to his land title, suffered a stroke in 1954, and died in financial strain in Goodlettsville, Tennessee on September 2, 1964. Hollywood made a movie about Alvin York and gave Gary Cooper an Oscar for it. The real Alvin York died with a debt in a Tennessee hospital. That part was not in the film. Coming in at number 17, the migration nobody announced. Each winter, between 25,000 and 50,000 sandhill cranes migrate to the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge near Birchwood, Meigs County, Tennessee, the single largest concentration of sandhill cranes east of the Mississippi River during winter migration. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency conducts annual counts at the refuge. In peak years, documented by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and the International Crane Foundation in Baraboo, Wisconsin, more than 36,000 cranes have been recorded on a single survey day. Sandhill cranes stand 4 feet tall with a 6-foot wingspan. Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency staff have described the sound of 36,000 of them calling simultaneously as audible from 2 miles away. 36,000 cranes, one lake, every winter in Tennessee. Not one nature documentary has sent a crew. Fact 16, the day American music was actually born. Here's what Hollywood never told you about country music. On August 1st, 1927, recording director Ralph Peer of the Victor Talking Machine Company set up portable equipment at 408 to 410 State Street in Bristol, Tennessee, a converted hat factory, and began recording what the Library of Congress would add to the National Recording Registry in 2004 as the foundational commercial event of country music. The Carter Family recorded August 1st through 3. Jimmy Rogers recorded August 4th. 76 tracks over 12 days in a small border city. The Recording Industry Association of America estimates country music generates $2 billion annually in recorded music revenue. The United States Congress has officially designated Bristol, Tennessee, as the birthplace of country music. The Birthplace of Country Music Museum in Bristol is a Smithsonian affiliate institution. Nashville gets the Grand Ole Opry and the tourism dollars. Bristol gets the Library of Congress designation. Ask any country music fan where country music was born. They will say Nashville. They will be wrong. Landing at number 15, the trial that ended differently than the movie. The state of Tennessee versus John Thomas Scopes was tried July 10th through 21, 1925, in the Rhea County Courthouse in Dayton, Tennessee. John Scopes, a 24-year-old football coach and substitute science teacher, was prosecuted under the Tennessee Butler Act for teaching evolution. Clarence Darrow defended him. William Jennings, Bryan prosecuted. The Tennessee Supreme Court's official record shows the conviction was overturned not because the Butler Act was unconstitutional, but because the judge had set the fine instead of the jury. The law stood. The 1960 film Inherit the Wind changed the names, altered the framing, and omitted one detail. William Jennings. Bryan collapsed and died in Dayton, Tennessee, 5 days after the verdict on July 26, 1925. The courthouse still stands, still adjudicates cases. William Jennings. Bryan won the Scopes trial and was dead in 5 days. The movie did not mention that. Neither did most American history classes. At number 14, the office where it started. The original Ku Klux Klan was founded in Pulaski, Giles County, Tennessee, in December 1865 by 6 former Confederate officers: Captain John Morton, General George Washington Gordon, John Kennedy, Calvin Spence, John Lester, and Frank McCord. The founding meeting took place in a law office on the Pulaski Courthouse Square. The Tennessee Historical Commission has registered historical markers at this location. Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest was named the first Grand Wizard at a Nashville meeting in 1867, according to the Library of Congress Civil War and Reconstruction records. Within 18 months of that law office meeting, Klan-affiliated organizations were active in every former Confederate state, with estimated membership exceeding 500,000. The Ku Klux Klan Acts of 1870 and 1871 were passed by the United States Congress specifically to suppress what began in Pulaski. The historical marker is still there. Pulaski has not hidden it, and neither is this video. Coming in at number 13, the river with more species than a continent. The Duck River in Middle Tennessee is 284 miles long. The Nature Conservancy's Tennessee chapter has documented it as containing approximately 54 species of freshwater mussels and more than 150 species of fish. More mussel species per linear mile than any comparably sized river system in the continental United States, and more mussel species than exist in all of Europe combined. The entire continent of Europe has approximately 16 native freshwater mussel species. The Duck River has more than 3 times that. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service's Tennessee Ecological Services Field Office lists 9 Duck River species as federally threatened or endangered, including the Tennessee clubshell mussel. At least 10 species in this river exist nowhere else on Earth. There are more freshwater mussel species in the Duck River than exist on a continent. Europe does not know this. Neither does most of Tennessee. Fact 12. The epidemic that erased a city. In August 1878, yellow fever entered Memphis via steamboat traffic on the Mississippi River. Between August and November of that year, the epidemic killed 550 people, approximately 16% of Memphis's total population. The Tennessee State Library and Archives holds the epidemic records. Approximately 25,000 of Memphis's 33,000 residents fled before the disease peaked. Of the roughly 6,000 who stayed, 404 contracted it. On January 31, 1879, the Tennessee State Legislature revoked Memphis's municipal charter. Memphis ceased to exist as a legally incorporated city. It was reorganized as a taxing district and did not formally regain city status until 1893. More people died in Memphis in those 4 months than Union soldiers killed at the Battle of Shiloh across both days of that engagement. The city lost its legal existence for 14 years. American history class did not cover this. Memphis was destroyed and rebuilt. Another Tennessee community was destroyed in a single morning in 1902, not by disease, but by the mine they all worked in. Some of the men had time to write before the air ran out. The letters are still in a building in Nashville. We're not done with that story yet. Landing at number 11, the underground country. Tennessee has more than 10,000 formally documented cave entrances, more mapped cave openings than any other state in the United States. The Tennessee Cave Survey, affiliated with the National Speleological Society, has recorded cave locations across all 95 Tennessee counties. I have walked the entrance passages of Cumberland Caverns in McMinnville, Warren County, the largest show cave in Tennessee, with 32 miles of mapped passages. And I can tell you that the scale of what is beneath this state's surface is genuinely difficult to comprehend from above it. One of its chambers was large enough that 19th century Tennessee governors hosted formal dinners inside it. If you visited one cave entrance per day, you would spend 27 years inside Tennessee before running out of new doors to open. Kentucky has Mammoth Cave and a national park built around it. Tennessee has 10,000 other caves and does not mention them. And number 10, the lake the earthquake built. Here is what nobody taught you about the New Madrid earthquakes. When the largest event struck, estimated by the United States Geological Survey At between magnitude 7.7 and magnitude 8.0, the land in what is now Lake County, northwest Tennessee, subsided 15 to 20 feet in minutes. The Mississippi River, that same river you've crossed into Memphis every time you've driven through this state, temporarily reversed its flow northward to fill the depression the Earth had just opened. The lake that formed, Reelfoot Lake, covers approximately 13,000 acres, roughly 20 square miles. It is the largest natural lake in Tennessee. It is the only natural lake in the contiguous United States officially documented to have been created by an earthquake. And that is not the end of the story. In 1908 and 1909, Tennessee State Library and Archives records show local fishermen fought an armed uprising against out-of-state speculators who had obtained legal title to the lake floor. 2 night riders were hanged. The state of Tennessee subsequently took ownership of the lakebed and declared it a public resource. An earthquake moved the Mississippi River backwards, and the water it left behind became a 20-square-mile lake that is still there tonight. Tennessee did not build this, the earth did. And then people fought a war over who owned it. Coming in at number 9, the eagles nobody drove to. Reelfoot Lake, the Earthquake Lake, the Vigilante Lake, hosts the largest concentration of wintering bald eagles east of the Mississippi River. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and United States Fish and Wildlife Service annual surveys have documented more than 200 individual bald eagles at Reelfoot during peak winter months. In 1963, at the bald eagle's lowest point before federal protection, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service recorded only 4 7-sedine nesting pairs remaining in the entire contiguous United States. Reelfoot Lake alone now hosts more than 200 individual birds in a single winter. The lake that an earthquake built now holds more bald eagles in winter than the entire country had nesting pairs in 1963. Nobody put a billboard on I-40 pointing north to it. Fact 8. The wettest mountains nobody visits properly. Clingman's Dome stands at 6,643 feet, the highest point in Tennessee and the highest point on the entire Appalachian Trail. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Centers for Environmental Information Records show it receives approximately 85 inches of rainfall per year. Ecologists classify the Great Smoky Mountains as a temperate rainforest. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park, all-taxa biodiversity inventory coordinated by Discover Life in America, documents more than 4,000 species of plants in the park, more plant species than exist in all of Northern Europe combined. The National Park Service's visitor-use statistics show the Great Smoky Mountains receives an average of 12 million visitors per year, more than Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon combined. The National Park Service estimates the majority of those visitors never go above 2,000 feet in elevation. The most visited national park in America is a temperate rainforest, has more plant species than Northern Europe. And most of the 12 million annual visitors spend their day in Gatlinburg and never look up. Landing at number 7, the ash they said was safe. On December 22, 2008, a retention pond dike at the Tennessee Valley Authority's Kingston Fossil Plant in Harriman, Roane County, Tennessee, failed. The Environmental Protection Agency confirmed the release. Approximately 5.4 million cubic yards of coal ash slurry, the largest coal ash spill in United States history. That is 40 times larger by volume than the Exxon Valdez spill, the event that overhauled American maritime environmental law. The Kingston spill covered roughly 300 acres, contaminated the Emery River and Clinch River with arsenic, mercury, lead, and selenium, and destroyed homes. Workers were brought in to clean it up. They were told the ash was safe to handle without full protective equipment. A 2019 federal jury verdict in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Tennessee, in the case of Greg Adkisson and others versus Jacobs Engineering Group, found that Jacobs Engineering had fraudulently concealed safety risks from those workers. Many subsequently developed cancer, neurological disease, and organ damage at rates significantly above baseline. I have read the depositions from that case. A federal jury found the cleanup workers were lied to. Many of those workers are dead. The Tennessee Valley Authority plant that produced the ash is still operating. At number 6, the disaster that killed more than the Titanic. Here's what Hollywood never told you about American maritime disaster. On April 27th, 1865, 12 days after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the steamboat Sultana exploded on the Mississippi River approximately 7 miles north of Memphis. The ship was certified for 376 passengers. It was carrying between 237 and 2,400 people. The majority of them recently released Union prisoners of war from Andersonville Prison in Georgia and Cahaba Prison in Alabama, according to United States Army Quartermaster Department records in the National Archives. Men who had survived some of the most lethal prison conditions in American military history were on their way home. 3 of the Sultana's 4 boilers exploded at 2 in the morning. Approximately on a wide 800 people died, more than perished on the Titanic 47 years later. The cause was a cracked boiler plate, repaired with a thinner gauge patch before departure, a defect the ship's engineer had identified. The nation's newspapers were covering the death of John Wilkes Booth, killed the previous day. The Sultana disaster received 2 column inches. The Titanic has a $200 million film and a Broadway musical. The Sultana killed more people. The men who died had already survived Andersonville. Their ship exploded in sight of the Tennessee shore. They have a small museum in Arkansas. Coming in at number 5, the farm Andrew Jackson left before dawn. In 1817, the Bell family of Adams, Robertson County, Tennessee, began documenting disturbances on their property that would continue for 4 years. The Robertson County Historical Society's records and Martin Van Buren Ingram's 1894 compilation, An Authenticated History of the Famous Bell Witch of Tennessee, preserved in the Tennessee State Library and Archives, document more than 100 named contemporary witnesses to events that included physical attacks on family members, unexplained sounds, and eventually a distinct voice that identified itself as the witch of a woman named Kate Batts. General Andrew Jackson, the man who routed the British at the Battle of New Orleans, then living at the Hermitage in Nashville, traveled to the Bell farm to investigate. He reportedly told associates afterward that he would rather face the entire British Army again than spend another night on that property. John Bell Sr. died on December 20th, 1820. His family found a vial of dark liquid near him. They administered a portion to the household cat. The cat died. The official cause of John Bell Sr.'s death was recorded as unknown. The disturbances ceased after his death. No natural explanation has been officially accepted by any subsequent investigation. The Bell Witch Cave in Adams, Tennessee, is still accessible tonight. Andrew Jackson faced the British at New Orleans. He reportedly said the Bell farm was worse. That is in the Robertson County Historical Record, and it has never been officially explained. Fact 4. The fire 2 teenagers started. On November 23, 2016, 2 juveniles, ages 15 and 17, started a fire near the Chimney Tops Trail in Great Smoky Mountains National Park by flicking lit matches in drought conditions. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and National Park Service Fire Investigation Report confirmed this origin. 5 days later, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded sustained wind gusts of 87 miles per hour at Chimney Tops. The fire drove into Gatlinburg, Sevier County, Tennessee, the same Gatlinburg that 12 million people per year visit as their entry point to the most visited national park in the country. 14 people died. More than 2,400 structures were damaged or destroyed. More than 17,000 people were displaced. Both juveniles were identified, charged in juvenile court, and the CVA County District Attorney's Office declined to seek adult transfer. Neither served prison time. The families who lived in those 2,400 structures are still trying to come home. 14 people died because of what started on one trail in the Smokies. What happened in Anderson County in 1902 started the same way, a Monday morning, people going to work, and something that should not have happened. We are almost there. Landing at number 3, The war the miners won. Between July 5, 1891 and August 1892, coal miners in Coal Creek, Anderson County, Tennessee, fought the state of Tennessee in one of the largest armed labor uprisings in post-Civil War American history. Tennessee had contracted to lease convict labor from state penitentiaries to the Knoxville Iron Company and Tennessee Coal Mining Company to break a strike. On July 5, 1891, approximately 300 Coal Creek miners seized the stockade, freed the convicts, and put them on a train to Knoxville. They did it 3 more times. Governor John Buchanan called in 1,600 National Guard troops. Karen Shapiro's primary monograph, A New South Rebellion, The Battle Against Convict Labor in the Tennessee Coalfields, published by the University of North Carolina Press, documents the outcome. No miners were prosecuted. Tennessee abolished the convict leasing system in 1896, 4 years before most southern states considered the question. The miners of Coal Creek won. They stood against the state and the state blinked. They went back to work in the same mines. 11 years later, on a Monday morning in May 1902, 216 of them went underground in the Freighterville mine. Some of them wrote letters to their families before the air was gone. The letters are still in Nashville. This is the last fact in this video. At number 2, the 5 hours that broke an army. On November 30th, 1864, Confederate General John Bell Hood ordered a frontal assault on Union fortifications at Franklin, Williamson County, Tennessee. Total casualties on both sides reached approximately 9,500 in approximately 5 hours, more casualties per hour than at the Battle of Gettysburg, on its bloodiest day, according to the United States War Department's official records in the War of the Rebellion series, Volume 45. Confederate casualties numbered approximately 6,252. 6 Confederate generals died in a single engagement. Major Generals Patrick Cleburne and States' Rights Gist, Brigadier Generals Hiram Granberry, Otho Strahl, and John Adams, and Brigadier General John Carter, who died of wounds on December 10th. No single day of the entire Civil War produced that loss of senior command. General Cleburne, widely considered the finest division commander in the Confederate Army, was found the following morning on the grounds of Carnton Plantation. His body was laid on the porch. The Carter House, which served as a Union command post during the battle, still stands in downtown Franklin today. The Tennessee Historical Commission and Carter House State Historic Site have documented more than 1,000 individual bullet holes preserved in its walls and outbuildings. 6 generals died in 5 hours in Franklin, Tennessee. The Carter House still has the holes. Most Americans have never heard of this battle. Most Americans would not believe the numbers. And finally, number 1, the letters that are still in Nashville. The Freighterville mine was located in the Freighterville community of Coal Creek, Anderson County, Tennessee. The same county, the same community of men who had stood against the state a decade before and won. On Monday, May 19, 1902, at approximately 7:45 in the morning, 216 men and boys descended into the Freighterville mine to begin the week's work. A methane gas explosion, the ignition source officially recorded by the state investigation as undetermined, detonated inside the mine. The blast collapsed entries and sealed the passages. Carbon monoxide and afterdamp began filling the spaces where the men were trapped. Some of them were still alive, and some of them began to write. Jacob Vowell wrote to his wife, Ellen. He addressed their children by name. He told her how to manage the household. He told her to remarry, that the children would need a father. He told her he expected to meet her in heaven. He wrote this underground in Anderson County, Tennessee, in the hours after a methane explosion, as the air around him worsened. He was not the only one. Multiple miners wrote letters in those hours, to wives, to parents, to children, recovered when the mine was eventually opened. The letters are preserved in the Tennessee State Library and Archives in Nashville. They have been cited in Tennessee Historical Quarterly Scholarship. They are accessible to researchers today. I have read every documented account of what was found when that mine was opened. I cannot tell you the exact moment Jacob Vowell's pen stopped. Nobody can. The official investigation could not identify what ignited the gas. The mine never fully reopened. The community of Coal Creek eventually renamed itself Lake City to move away from what coal had cost it, and later merged into the city of Rocky Top, Anderson County, Tennessee, which is what the maps call it now. 216 men went underground on a Monday morning in the volunteer state, and the last thing some of them did was write. Jacob Vowell asked Ellen to meet him in heaven, listed their children's names, told her to remarry, and the Tennessee State Library and Archives still has the letter, and Jacob Vowell never got to read a reply.